It's exactly 6 p.m. in New York City, 11 p.m. in Algiers, and midnight in Vienna. Here in Accra, it's 10 p.m. and this is News at 10. We're live from the News Hub at Adisawe Kanda in Accra. We're streaming live on Facebook and on 3news.com. TV3 is also on your DSTV channel 279. Let me take you first through a summary of the day's major news highlights. President Nana Addo has denounced what he says is the unspeakable hypocrisy that characterized the consideration and ratification of Ghana's security cooperation agreement with the United States. In an address to the nation, the president indicated the ratification of the agreement by Parliament demonstrates his government's commitment to democracy. The Greater Accra Regional Police Command has gunned down 5 suspected armed robbers in a midnight operation. The deceased were part of a suspected 15-member armed robbery gang embarking on a robbery operation in Accra and Kaswa. Meanwhile, the police have mounted a manhunt for the remaining 10 suspected members of the gang. And more than 1,500 households have been displaced in Salaga in the northern region after a rainstorm on Wednesday. The Member of Parliament for Salaga South, Salifu Adam Brahima, and MC Mohammed Tamimu joined NADMO officials to visit the affected areas. In business tonight, prices of petroleum products are likely to go up by 2% at the local pumps in the first pricing window, which will end April 15. The Institute for Energy Security projects fuel prices could go up in the second window if government does not intervene to stabilize the prices. Elsewhere in Africa, Sierra Leone's National Elections Commission announced late Wednesday that opposition candidate Julius Maada Bio of the Sierra Leone's People's Party had won the closely contested elections. He was swiftly sworn into office just before midnight. Defeated candidate Samura Kamara said in an interview broadcast on national television that the results did not reflect the will of the voters. He hinted his APC party would take appropriate legal action to challenge the results. Those were our major news highlights. Remember, you can hear us live on 3FM 92.7, and we're also streaming live on Facebook and on 3news.com. Up next is the big one. Welcome back. Now, President Nana Addo has denounced what he says is the unspeakable hypocrisy that characterized the consideration and ratification of Ghana's security cooperation agreement with the United States. In an address to the nation, the president indicated the ratification of the agreement by Parliament demonstrates his government's commitment to democracy. President Addo reiterated he will not compromise or sell the sovereignty of the country.
Truth is sacrosanct. So let me state with the clearest affirmation that Ghana has not offered a military base and will not offer a military base to the United States of America. Indeed, the United States of America has not made any request for such consideration. And consistent with our established foreign policy, we will not consider any such request. However, in consideration of the realities of our circumstances and the challenges to peace in our region in our time, we have deemed it prudent to continue the cooperation agreement with the United States of America. It is our firm belief that the agreement will help enhance our defense capability and offer an important layer of support in our common effort to protect the peace in our region. Fellow Ghanaians, let me conclude by saying how outraged I am by the defamatory comments from my political opponents, some of whose patriotism can be so easily questioned, that the sovereignty of this country has been sold by my government and myself. I will never be the president that will compromise or sell the sovereignty of our country. I respect deeply the memory of the great patriots whose sacrifice and toil brought about our independence and freedom. I have stood with you, the Ghanaian people, all my adult life, fighting for our individual and collective rights. Everything I have done since assuming the great honor and privilege of serving you as President of the Republic demonstrates that I remain focused on building a self-reliant, free, prosperous Ghana, which will be able to make her own unique contribution to the growth and development of Africa and the world. Let us concentrate and spend our energies on working together to achieve that goal of a happy and prosperous Ghana, and reject the hypocrisy of the naysayers who led our country into bankruptcy and the worst economic record of modern Ghanaian history. Let us rise above them and build the Ghana of our destiny, the land of freedom, justice, progress, and prosperity. May God bless us all in our homeland Ghana and make her great and strong. I thank you.
Right, we can now speak with Professor Bafo Ajimaidria, who is a former United Nations Governance Advisor. Prof, thank you extremely for joining us. So from your perspective, your governance perspective, how would you assess tonight's address, for example, in terms of whether it achieved the purpose for which it set out to, and whether the delivery in terms of the content and context were appropriate?
Thank you very much. I think on both scores, the president did very well. The content was quite solid, seeking to defend an agreement that he has already approved with the United States. And you know, I cannot think of any president who will sign an agreement with another country and buckle down because of opposition in his country. Of course, there are a few instances where people have been able to move their president to change course. But in this particular case, I don't think any president in his position today will simply buckle down. That would not be presidential at all. So I'm not surprised at his very robust reaction to the demonstrations and those who have criticized him. Also, mind you, it's not been only demonstration, but the kinds of accusations against him have been very strong, extreme, I should say. Because when you accuse a sitting president of treason, to the extent of saying he has betrayed his country, selling the country's sovereignty, then you should expect that president, whoever he may be, to defend the stance that he's taking. So again, that does not surprise me that he was very robust in defending himself. Now, on the substantive issue, it is true that the agreement is not a base. Maybe those who have been criticizing it could have used a different base, and in other words, a different term. But it's not a military base. Look, I'm very familiar, by the way, with what a military base is. And I've visited a few of them. And for those who may not know, And my dissertation was on U.S. military assistance to Ethiopia. You can go on the website and find it. So I'm very familiar with this, and I'm also familiar with U.S. engagements with countries in the third world and other places. The fact is that whenever the United States enter into such an agreement, it is meant to enhance the American-owned strategy globally. And you, the country that is engaged, it's up to you to find a way to also benefit from that. So I think much of the debate has been that we did not negotiate very well, and therefore we are being cheated out. That may be true in so many ways, because certainly when a country such as ours is negotiating with a country such as the Americans, it's not possible to have equity. So in that respect, I can understand that. But in overall, the president has stated clearly what he feels.
Right, Prof. So I remember what clearly sticks to my mind is hearing the president saying how outraged he is by those who questioned his patriotism, and he went on, to paraphrase, he went on to say, by people whose patriotism can easily be assessed. Do you see that as a bit of sarcasm and an unnecessary dip into, the same low terrain the president feels that people are coming from to criticize him? Do you think he succeeded in addressing the core issues flagged by his critics on this agreement?
Well, I think the president could have chosen different words to express his outrage. I think he could have used different words. But at the same time, as I said earlier, if you are accused of betraying your country as a president to the extent of being accused of treason, that is serious indeed. That is very serious. So if he's outraged, I can understand that. And I don't think what he's done tonight is necessarily going to change the minds of those who oppose the agreement. I don't think so. But I think there could be others who may be thinking through this again and realizing that perhaps this agreement is not fundamentally different from the previous ones. I think that's why he traced the history of our relationship with the U.S. The latest one certainly is an enhanced form for all kinds of reasons. But as I keep saying, it's up to us now to find a way to deal with this situation. And I think there could be many measures that this government can take to protect us from some of the possible fallouts from such an engagement with a power like the United States.
Now, looking into the crystal ball, Prof, what do you reckon will be the response of groups and political parties that oppose this agreement? Are they able to accept that there won't be any change, there won't be any backing down, and that's it?
Well, my thinking is that, of course, before the speech, I read that some opponents were expecting the president to come and announce the withdrawal of the agreement. But of course, that is not possible. I didn't expect that. I expected the president to defend it, as any president will do. I think the opponents may decide to hit the streets again if they still feel aggrieved. That is to say, if they are not happy with the president's response. And I think it may be better for us as a people for government to engage those who are opposed to it. But you see, the difficulty here is that the opposition is not just on the content of the agreement. I think there's a huge ideological component to those who oppose the agreement. So if you're dealing with those who are opposing on the basis of ideology, then it's very difficult to change the mind of such people. And I can understand. The whole notion of sovereignty has a huge emotional content. Because, look, we've been enslaved before, we've been colonized before, in which cases we lost our freedom. So when we say we have regained our freedom, we are a sovereign nation, then we have to protect the sovereignty that we've got.
Right.
That I appreciate. But we also have to be realistic that in our modern world, there are all kinds of arrangements a nation will make. Even the biggest, powerful countries like the U.S., they cannot go it alone.
Right.
That's why they come to seek the cooperation of a country like Ghana.
Right, Prof.
That is less powerful.
Yeah,
so these are the dynamics that we have to appreciate.
Right.
So I'm saying that with the ideological component heavy for most of those who are opposed to it, I do not expect that the president's speech will change the minds of such individuals.
Right, Professor Ajimandria, we're grateful for your time. Thank you extremely. Professor Ajimandria is former United Nations governance advisor. We're getting onto the telephone lines now to speak with Adam Bona, who is a security analyst. He's the chief executive officer of the Security Warehouse. He will be joining us pretty shortly. So if you've just joined us, this is News at 10. We're live from the News Hub at Adesawe Kanda in Accra. You can also follow our live stream on Facebook and on 3news.com, and you can hear us live on 3FM 92.7. Let's go onto the telephone lines now and get to speak with Adam Bona, security analyst, joining us now. Mr. Bona, good evening, sir, and thank you extremely for your time. So the president says no security base for the United States. Are you convinced, or better to put it, from the information you have, is this the truth?
Oh, yes, certainly so. It's not a military base. What we have is just a cooperative security look. It's the Americans have 3 levels of agreement. They have the base, they have the forward, and then they have the cooperative. And so what we have is a cooperative location, and so it's not a base. And
now,
so,
the president also actually was very critical of people, he says, leaked sensitive documents. Is this a source of concern, mindful, especially of the fact that the documents will always be leaked, really, especially in this our modern free media world?
You know, Julian, is it Julian Assange or whatever they call him, the WikiLeaks guy? You know, that guy is still hiding in some embassy of a sort in one of these countries. You know, national security documents or documents of this nature are not supposed to be leaked. And so for me, I think that in the first place, leaking it was wrong. But at the end of the day, well, we do things and we never get punished anyway. So for me, I have said it emphatically that national security is not everything in terms of security and intelligence that you want to put it out there in the public domain. You do that, you risk putting too much fear in the people and, you know, creating chaos. And so if the president said that, yes, yeah, something that we need to look at in going forward, because this administration is happening to this administration, another administration will come and it might happen to them. And so we need to be guided by what are state secret and what certain people should know and some people shouldn't know, probably. Yes.
Right. Mr. Bona, we're grateful for your time. Thank you extremely. Adam Bona is a security analyst. I'm Stephen Anti. This is still News at 10. We have more news for you. Don't go away. Welcome back. Now, prices of petroleum products are likely to go up by 2% at the local pumps in the first pricing window, which will end April 15. The Institute for Energy Security projects that fuel prices could go up in the second window if government does not intervene to stabilize prices.
In the month of March, prices were fairly stable at the local pumps.
In March, the first pricing window, we were supposed to see some price reductions. It didn't happen. That's unfortunate. But the second pricing window, prices were fairly stable for consumers. So, yeah, that's the good news for the past window. But in April, definitely we'll be paying more for fuel.
The 3 main factors for pricing petroleum products under the deregulated regime are crude prices on the world market, existing taxes and levies, and the foreign exchange rates. Principal Research Analyst of the Petroleum Unit at the Institute for Energy Security, Richmond Roxon, explains the pricing factors warrant an increase in prices at the local pumps.
Crude oil prices went up slightly on the international market. It's averaging around $67 per barrel. For finished products, gasoline went up by 3%. Gas oil, what we normally call diesel, also went up by some 2%. Our CD was fairly stable, even though it depreciated slightly within the period. So on average, we're expecting that prices will go up at the various oil marketing companies between 1 and 2%, depending on how competition will go within the period.
Currently, on the average, petrol sells at 4 cedis 51 pesos, while diesel is sold at 4 cedis 49 pesos. Should fuel prices go up by 1 to 2%, the new prices could be on the average of 4 cedis 57 pesos for petrol and 4 cedis 56 pesos for diesel. The Institute for Energy Security further indicated without government intervention through the National Petroleum Authority, there will be further increases in the second pricing window, which starts on April 16th.
In the second pricing window for April as well, even though all the figures are not out yet, so far we've had prices going up on the international market, and if we don't find any intervention from the National Petroleum Authority using the price stabilization and recovery levy, whether for the first or second pricing window, definitely consumers will be paying more for the first and second pricing window in April.
The Association of Ghana Industries says the reduction in the policy rate needs to translate into lending rates of the banks. The association believes the Bank of Ghana's action in terms of reforms in the financial industry is in the right direction. This, according to the AGI, will help the finance industry to be more sensitive to the Bank of Ghana's policies.
The central bank reduced the monetary policy rate by 200 basis points from 20% to 18%. Vice President of the Association of Ghana Industries, Humphrey Ayimdake, lauded the move. He was, however, disappointed the financial sector has not been responsive to reductions in policy rate. AGI has therefore challenged the Bank of Ghana to compel banks to reduce their lending rates following the policy rate cut.
Further on, the challenge is to make sure this policy rate reduction translates into lending rates, and that is where the dichotomy of this engagement is.
Humphrey Ayimdake believes the central bank in reforming the financial sector is key to empower the sector. He stated reforms in terms of good corporate governance within the various industry players, such as insurance companies, microfinance institutions, and the commercial banks, is in the right direction.
It's a matter of time. Policy takes time to mature, and therefore what government is doing, we're giving a full endorsement and we embrace the 18% new policy rate.
Ayimdake was of the view the reforms will ensure effective and efficient operation of the banking and credit systems and support general economic growth.
Thank you extremely for making time on behalf of the crew. Good night.